Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, I want to talk a little bit about the Michael Aquino family. Now, he's known a lot of people, but most people don't know, including myself until recently, that he apparently had one son, which he appropriately named Damien. Right out of those series of movies that showed Damien as the Antichrist. And I guess that figures in. It just shows you how much into and how warped Michael Aquino and his group are. That they have to use infantile names for their children to show you how much they're into this antichrist demonic reality. And of course, why shouldn't they be? He was very wealthy. Mommy had lots of money, and we'll talk about that. Apparently, his mother was a real estate agent in the boom time of California and San Francisco, which had even bigger booms than most of California, and made a fortune and had properties there. So there's estimates of, it's not as much as people think it is. And again, like everything, maybe it appears, it is now. Well, we can't get any solid facts on anything without spending months of investigation to find out whether it was 5 million, 10 million, or 20 million. But he was left quite a bit of money. He was able to go to higher education, lived in Santa Barbara, an expensive place to go to school for many years. So all of these things showed that his family had a lot of money. A lot of people don't seem to understand that, and I'm just amazed of how these pundits, these people who are making money off of this terror, who claim to be investigators, don't read anything about Michael Aquino and all of the many books he's written. One of them is called Ghost Rides with Don Webb, who ran the Temple of Set for 6-7 years. So this is a guy who's well trusted. They wrote a book together because people wanted to know, well, we want to have an autobiography of you. And this is his autobiography. It's available online at Kindle Unlimited. So really you only have to pay like $10 and you can read almost all of his books. Another thing, well, what's the matter? People don't want to read. That means it's time involved. Is that a real researcher? Well, I don't think it is, because I've never heard anybody quote anything from Aquino's books. You've never read them, yet you want to condemn, you want to attack, you want to find information, you want to get to what is. Well, they're not really trying to get to what the truth is. What they're trying to do is just make sensational stuff so they can make money off of their radio shows, their podcasts, and other things. No one is seeking truth, which means the illusion of truth from either side is just that. It's illusion. There is no truth because you don't get any of the real information. This is the core understanding that everybody needs to have. So you get information that has no value. I heard it, maybe it's this. But let's get back to his family. He has a son called Damien. And Damien apparently, so it is told by one very uncredible investigator who doesn't seek truth, who wants to make sure that they make lots of money off of his new radio shows. And he begs for money every week. So the whole idea is that stated that in a legal document filed in the court system, and this is where you get lots of good information from, because at least you get information that is what that person is trying to make money off of. So when you file a court document, it's public domain, and you are going to state what the problem is. And this is where a lot of trash has been dug up on people, that they were gamblers, sex addicts, whatever, drug addicts, etc. And it's stated in there because they put that in the court document, because that's what they're trying to use. It doesn't mean it's right, by the way. It just means they're using that information to accuse somebody of something because they want to get money out of them. So he was terrible with his children, so he doesn't deserve custody. He blew $100,000 a month on gambling, so he can pay me more money. So this is the kind of reality that we look into, that we have to be careful of. That these documents aren't necessarily truth, but they are a statement from that person of what they, how do you phrase that? It's their manipulation of figures which may or incidents which may or may not be true. This is the problem in life. No one is seeking truth. They're seeking something that benefits them. So apparently he filed a claim against, I'm assuming, his mother. I haven't seen the documents either. This is, again, hearsay. We assume this is right. But he filed documents stating to the fact that he wanted part of the sizable his father's estate. Now, he owned a bunch of land in Scotland, made himself the Pope of Scotland. What a blight is on that country. And that he didn't know about the death of his father. He was never informed of it, etc. Now, what does that tell us? Now, at this particular point, we only know of this one child. Now, Aquino was married to Lilith, who was an ex-model who gave up modeling because everybody wanted to hump her, which is very typical of that industry, but common. So she just decided to get mad and drop out and find some sucker to live with, instead of going after these scumbuckets and giving them what they deserve. But that's another case. Again, it just shows you the mentality. But Lilith, and I'm not going to get into what their names are now. You're going to find out the real names, who cares? But Lilith Aquino married him. She, as I said, was an ex-model and got out of it because of the horrific industry that it is. What industry isn't horrific, especially if there's money and fame connected to it? It's really sad. But that's the way the world is, and that's what the bigger picture is here. It's not the little incidents here. You're learning from the bigger picture of the huge amount of corruption. So he had this son called Damien, who apparently has been very estranged, not only from his father, but from his mother. Who inherited everything. And of course, she didn't want to necessarily give away anything to the son either. But we've never heard of him. And of course, there is reasons for this. And the reasons for this is that this is a guy who's under death threats, who people harass, who walking around saying, my daddy is Michael Aquino, the head of the Temple of Set, isn't exactly something that you want to wear on a t-shirt. I don't think it really helps you that much, except in certain circles. We don't know what he's doing, what he's into, what his opinions are, what the entire reality of it is. We just don't know anything. And anybody who tells us something, well, we really can't believe him anyway. So it's the same old story. So he had a son, he had a wife. We don't know what he's had affairs. It's even been claimed that he was bisexual. We don't know. We haven't been able to confirm any of this. So it's all this alleged. Somebody comes out and states these things and we don't know. Being a military man, the fact that he was bisexual wouldn't be very surprising. It's a pandemic problem within the U.S. military, and particularly within the places he spent a lot of time in Germany. So the point is that who the military calls homosexuality the German disease. So the whole idea is that this is very typical of this crime. So we don't know. It could be not. There's nobody has come out and said that they have had sexual contact of a homosexual type with Aquino that I know of. It certainly wouldn't be unusual for a guy who's twisted everything else in his life. Now, is there anything wrong with any of that? Not really. I'm not sure that has to do with anything. There is a problem if you're a pedophile, which he's been claimed to have been involved in, and there's lots of links to this. But again, it's difficult. Now, for all those people that think that it's an open and shut case, he wrote a book on that incident. And it should be read. You should read both sides of the story because you're trying to find the truth. You're not going to get the truth from these horrible researchers who are trying to get lots of views and make money on radio shows and other things. You're not going to get truth from them. So you're not going to get truth from the so-called reporters. They are the biggest boobs I've ever met. They are disinformation agents because it's just easy to accept certain things because it fits into your radio show gossip, which gets lots of viewers. Just like the Earth changes. I remember on with old Art Bell, get your Earth change map. They sold hundreds of thousands of maps. I bought one myself because it was just kind of fascinating. Bogus, just like all the other thing pushed on the Art Bell show, including the bogus Levitra. Oh, it's amazing. It's like it's a magnet art. Never seen one? Well, I did, but on my bank account's they paid me a lot of money to say it's amazing. It's amazing that two magnets push away from me. Yes, I'm Art Bell. I'm as dumb as a rock. So the whole idea is that when we get involved in all these things, that's what it comes to. But he has an extensive amount of information he's written to leave behind because when he retired here in the last few years, when he was diagnosed apparently with colon cancer in 2016, and it was a bad case of it, decided to put as much stuff out there as possible. So he's also claimed to one individual, who I tend to believe more than others, but who knows, stated that everything he knows in terms of his empowerment, his techniques, are in his books. And there are books. His books are not just informational, they are instructional as well. That's something people should note, and those out there seeking empowerment should be looking at what this guy was doing and how you can use it in a positive way. So apparently, in terms of his actual personal life, that's it. Obviously, he spent his entire career in the military, his entire life in the military, and running the Temple of Set. He was a member of the Church of Satan. When they started to get more monetary, he didn't like that and broke away from that. He was never good friends with Anton LaVey anyway. He was just a member of the church. They weren't really buddies. That's also needs to be noted. So he spent his childhood, he was an Eagle Scout, he got all these badges, he liked to get badges, just like he went in the military. He did the same thing there, taking all these classes, getting these badges, getting these ranks, etc. That's the game. So that's what he was into of doing in general. In terms of his social life, he did have affairs with some women, one of them who wrote a book, and he sued her for what she stated in there, and he liked to sue a lot of people. That's just what he did. He had the money, and of course, that keeps people from yapping about you, something that I've always wanted to do in general. When someone mouths off about you that isn't true, or they can't prove any of it whatsoever, they should be sued. This is the way it goes. So, most things in life, almost 99.9.9.9.9 is alleged information that could be true, but we don't really know. Because there's really no facts of it. It's one person's opinion. Nobody has ever been convicted. Nobody's been arrested. So all these things go into these areas as well. So needless to say, Michael Aquino in general is a scapegoat that we need to be very careful of, just like the Process Church. Were they up to no good? Well, of course they were up to no good. But were they these horrible figures that were everywhere and in charge of everything? All the kidnappings. It's always Aquino. Why? Because that's a name people can identify. So if you're a person seeking fame or wants to connect somebody, or who's mentally deranged to the fact that, I remember, I heard that on TV, that's the same guy. Yeah, they use the term colonel, which even seems to have to wonder why you would call yourself that in general, so you can identify. That's certainly not a name out of the blue. So the whole idea is that we need to understand these factors and stop using people as an scapegoat. But it is interesting. Now, the problem with Damien Aquino is that he's involved in this lawsuit and claims that he cannot speak because of that. That's what he told this pseudo researcher out there that wanted to put him on his show, who goes through all the public records looking for things, and he has a lot of people that go to him and tell him things so that he can basically go out there and tell you his personal understanding of the issue. So the whole idea is that all of this tends to be based on the fact of, let's get radio show ratings because I need money. And that goes with everybody. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to pan out into direct dollars in your pocket, but it's celebrity. Everybody wants to be a celebrity. Everybody wants to be a VIP. So they're going to twist information they get or believe things from uncredible sources and call them credible. So he does have a child, and we're going to eventually hear from this guy. This case has to go to court. Now, whether he'll speak after that, I don't know. It depends how much money he's getting from mommy and daddy. How is he living? Was he left a larger estate based on the fact of him shutting up or not? Apparently, since he's been pushed out of the estate now, since he's died and they just don't tell him anything. Now, I don't know if he's getting an actual trust fund. Now, a lot of people have trust funds. They call them trust fund babies, where a lot of money is put in a trust fund and you can draw a certain amount every month. So I don't know if that's set up. We don't know anything about Damien Aquino, what he's doing, what he's involved in, etc. We do know, because there's such alienation, that apparently it appears that he was not that involved in the Temple of Set or in their other activities. This could enrage the parents that he didn't want to get involved, and of course, leaving him where he is today. So we don't know, but eventually we'll hear from him as this lawsuit goes on. Now, apparently he told this pseudo investigator that he couldn't talk because of the legal case. Not that he didn't want to talk, but because of the legal case. So if he gets screwed over in this legal case, well, we may have some that starts to come out and talks his opinion of what he thinks he knows and can allege against other people. And that's, I use those words not as comical, but in truth, his opinions are his opinions. Now, apparently there's a falling out here. You would think that a military man who has a son would want his son to follow in his footsteps. That's very typical. You think he'd want him in the church, that he would be held up as the poster child, as the Antichrist, which they're all into. None of this happened. And we've got to assume that Aquino, and we don't know his birth date or anything else about him or where he lives, etc. If anybody has information, let me know. But the bottom line is that he must be 40, 50 years old. I mean, you got to figure if Aquino had him at 30 as a child, that he would be close to 40 today. So this is not a youngster. We don't know anything about it. In terms of what's formally offered out there, Aquino has all of what he did listed online, his badges, etc. I'm going to try and find this page again and list it below if I can find it, and we can go from there. But also the fact that supposedly he was, which cannot be proven in one iota, that he was a member of the NSA, and that he was promoted to a general. All of this is hearsay nonsense, but it sounds good. Yeah, I know. I got sources. This guy in the street corner? Yeah. Bobby the drunken heroin addict told me that because he was a busboy in the military commissary, and when he was peeing one time next to a general, he heard them talking. This is the kind of nonsense you get from these pseudo investigators that are not seeking truth. They're seeking headlines to fill their pockets, and that goes with everybody. There's a whole bunch of people claiming they were abused, claiming that Aquino taught them and everything. There's no credibility to this whatsoever, especially if you know nothing about it. I'd like to sit down with this person who stated he got all this information from Aquino and talk about the techniques that he was given. Let's see. Well, you talk to this guy, the techniques I prayed today, they used a Satan star, a Star of David that really is a pentagram, all the stuff you get from these frauds that are out there. So the whole idea is that we have to be very, very careful where we get information from, and these people know nothing. And just because somebody comes out and wants to claim they were molested, they had these problems, well, there's no proof to any of this. We have to understand that people are seeking their own personal celebrity status. They want to get known, and whether this pays out or not is unknown, but they certainly get celebrity from it. They get on TV shows, they get other things. And usually none of this stuff adds up to anything. TV shows and interviews don't pay you anything. You don't get a dime if you talk to somebody who then uses it on a podcast and makes $50 million from it, puts it on the BBC or CNN. You don't get a penny from it, and I know that personally because I've been on those things. The person who does it gets filthy rich from it. They publish books and you don't get a penny. That's the way it goes. So all of these things that people do in their own delusional mind, and I think they even believe it after a while, we cannot. But that's the history there. And, if you want facts, people, go read his books. Read his books on the Temple of Set. That's the first place that anybody, if they really wanted to know what Aquino was into, is you start from the published literature. A lot of information is going, well, they're never going to give you the real information. Why? You're never going to read it. Of course, they're going to give you a large part of the picture there. You're also going to be able to figure out where they're coming from. So what the scapegoat that the process church is, the scapegoat that Michael Aquino is just that. Were they up to no good? Of course they were up to no good. Are they on every street corner, a communist under every bed? Wasn't that what happened in the 50s? So the whole idea is that everybody's everywhere. Apparently nobody names anybody else. As soon as Aquino was on all these TV shows and everything else, yeah, that's the guy. Come on. No other names, no other people, no photographs, no nothing, no practical information, a bunch of hearsay nonsense, and these egotistical people that think they're going to do something It's amusing, this one guy threatening Aquino. It's a joke. And to think that anything hurt him because he died of cancer, well, it just shows he didn't have enough personal power from his demonic masters that they would take care of him. Because 73 is not really a good age. Most people live naturally into their middle 80s. And if you're doing kind of okay, you make it into your early 90s. So the bottom line is that this guy didn't do that well. 79 or 70, I think it's dropped down to about 77, but it's about 77 to 79 is the average life expectancy in the Western world. The United States is now down to about 76. So that's the reality here of what's going on. But that's the personal life and the information we have. If anybody else has any information on this Damien, where he lives, what he does, certainly contact me and we can get real information out there instead of the stuff that people are trying to do to get ratings for their new talk shows that are going national so they can make money, because apparently they can't figure out how to do that. So all of that is part of what's going on out there. So we were trying to look for facts here. Not hearsay, not nonsense. But it's amazing that I've never heard one of these pundits talk about his actual autobiography, which he did wrote with Don Webb. And it doesn't matter how fictionalized, how added, how stuff is deleted. It doesn't matter. You're putting pieces together. Nor of his other books. But I do find it interesting that he told somebody, again, it's total complete hearsay, like, isn't everything hearsay? You can't hardly prove anything. And I know that in my own personal life, being harassed by numerous, it's very difficult to prove anything because you're involved and it's going on all the time. But people aren't going to say, yeah, here's the proof, throw me in jail. So it's normal that you wouldn't have proof. The other thing is that it's also normal for people to sensationalize things and basically out and out give out information that is completely unproven. I mean, it's close to be, I can't believe they believe these people. But it's convenient when you're an interviewer and you have a show or a podcast to give the person you're interviewing complete and total facto. Oh yeah, that's what they did. And I hear this all the time with people. No, that's the opinion of that person. And they may believe it, they may not. It may be partly true, half true, 5% true, 99% true. We don't know. And that's why you as a person out there, and why I stress all the time, don't believe anything and always use reverse thinking. Aquino is horrible. No, Aquino's the best guy in the world. Reverse that stuff that puts you into the middle. And this happens today with the brainwashing we're getting from wars and everything else that are going on, which is just total and complete fabrications of what the real truth is. So you need to know for yourself, because this is part of navigating the world. Now, all of this stuff, I think ultimately, and I'm getting a little bit bored with all this research, is the fact that how do you apply this to your personal life? And you apply it to your personal life by understanding this is the kind of, so when you take a course, and someone tells you something, it's their personal opinion. Now, they may be honest, they may be hucksters, they may be liars, but it's their personal opinion. You have to figure out how it works in your life. You have to figure out, is there truth to that course? Does that information work for you? And it doesn't mean that they're complete frauds. It may not be good for you. Find something else that does. So that's the bigger picture here. And everybody needs to wake up to the fact that you're being lied to by every possible person you can think of. Nobody tells the truth because they're just basically, they're telling what puts money in their bank account or gives them some sort of their 15 minutes of fame.